In this video, we're going to talk about if you might be smothering your spouse. Now, I'm going to define what I mean by smothering in a minute, but I want you to think for a second. If you're married, I want you to evaluate yourself. Do you require a lot of attention from your spouse? Do you expect a million text messages throughout the day, and if you don't get them, you're thinking, could they be talking to somebody else? Do they not love me as much? Are you a person that's kind of threatened by your spouse's friendships with other people? Not the opposite sex, but like same sex. You don't really love it when your spouse goes off to watch the game with his buddies or off shopping with her friends. You want all of your time to be together. Your expectation is in our marriage, we should be together all the time. We're all that we need. If any of those things are kind of descriptive of you and your viewpoint or how you feel, then you might be smothering your spouse. And so we're going to talk about that today. And hopefully this video could help you to maybe think about if that's the healthiest way to be in your marriage, because my challenge is going to be that it's not. So let me define smothering. To smother means that you overwhelm your spouse with your emotional needs. So usually what that means is you feel insecure, you might question your self-worth and your value, and you might feel insecure in your marriage for different reasons. And so you try to force connection by demanding more attention and time from your spouse. So it's really kind of an inner struggle within yourself. So your answer is, well, then I'll just try to take control of the situation and I'll just force connection. I'll just kind of make my spouse be all about me, and maybe that'll make me feel better. So that's what it means to smother. Now, hopefully, as you're hearing me say that, you recognize, I don't know, that may not sound as healthy as it should. And that's good, because to smother isn't good. It's not healthy for marriage, and I'll tell you some more about why that is. Here's the bottom line. Your spouse is not going to be able to meet your every need. So if you're in your marriage and you struggle with self-confidence, or you struggle with your worth or your value to your marriage or to the world, if you have a history that taught you that you weren't valuable, maybe you've had other relationships where you were cheated on or disrespected or abused. So you came into this marriage then and you're thinking, well, I don't know, I don't feel that great about myself. So I'm going to try and force my spouse to love me the way I want to be loved to make me feel better. And the problem with that is your spouse is never going to get to that deepest need. Your spouse, as much as they want to love you and care for you, will never be able to answer those questions about self-confidence and self-worth. That can only come from your relationship with God. And so if that's you, if that's what you struggle with, and that kind of hits a nerve for you as I'm saying that, then you need to take some time to learn about who God is to you, and that you have value to Him, and that you don't have value because you're married. You don't have value because somebody says, I love you. I mean, that's great and that is helpful, but your ultimate value, your ultimate worth comes from relationship with God. Now, I'm not going to take the time to read the passage, but go look at Ephesians chapter 1 and listen to how God loves us, and that when we put our faith and trust in Jesus, we are in God's family, that we get to call God, the God of the universe, our Abba Father, that He loves us. He gives us value and worth because He chooses to do that. So that's the starting point for us. If you question your own value, if you question your self-confidence, then don't look to get that deepest need met from your spouse. That needs to come from your relationship with God. Because here's the reality, and maybe this is something you're already experiencing. When we smother and when we try to overwhelm our spouse with our needs, all we do is push our spouse away. Right? And that's the opposite effect that we want, especially if we're feeling insecure in our marriage or in the love of our spouse. Then when they start to push away, when they choose not to give us their whole attention or all of their time or all of their affection, then we start to wonder, see, they don't love me. See, something might be wrong. Are they thinking about somebody else? Is there somebody else out there that they care more about? It just creates all sorts of inner struggle and dialogue that's not healthy. So in smothering, we're actually having the opposite effect. So if that's you, and if you feel like that's a dynamic in your marriage, then I strongly encourage you to go talk to a mentor or your pastor at church or a trusted friend. I encourage you to go seek some counseling and recognize, you know what, maybe there's something internally that I need to go deal with about my own insecurities and my own lack of self-confidence, that I need to process that with somebody. That's important. That's good stuff to go talk to someone about, instead of trying to force connection with your spouse, who then is just going to feel overwhelmed because it's out of the side of the bounds of what's normal for a marriage. Because like I said earlier, your spouse cannot possibly meet those deepest needs that you have for worth and self-confidence. The bottom line in marriage, if you want it to be healthy, is that spouses should be givers, not takers. So if you're a person that tends to smother because you're coming from a place of insecurity, then recognize that that's a selfish place to be. You instead should be looking at your spouse saying, gosh, how do I need to love them? What needs do I need to meet for them? But if we're too busy trying to guard our own heart and trying to find our own value and our own worth, then we're totally losing sight of the fact that our spouse has needs. And in a healthy marriage, is going to be in a give and a take. And ultimately, let's remember, the way Jesus has loved us is the model of how we should love in marriage. And he was totally selfless and sacrificial. He did everything for us and not for himself. So we need to bring that into marriage. So if you struggle with smothering, or if you're in a marriage and you feel like you're being smothered, then take this seriously. Go find a mentoring couple. Go talk to your pastor. Go talk to a counselor and work through these issues, because self-worth issues are real and important, but go talk to them and deal with them in a healthy way so that your marriage can be strong and that it can be more of a give and take and not one of you being overwhelmed by the other's needs.